Hi everybody, it's Katie at Grandma's House on the Mountain. How are you all today? Good, I hope. I hope everybody's doing awesome. Well, today I wanted to go over part 2 of our Down and Dirty into Fertilizer. Now, I know I said I was going to put it up the other day. It just didn't happen. I just could not find a quiet place to film, and then it started raining. Excuse me, and the stump that I normally sit on to do this was soaking wet. So yeah, I decided to go out and give you guys a little picture of the field that's across the street from me. And literally, I am in my driveway next to my garbage can, so you can see the big field that's across from me. See a lot of elk there, a lot of elk. Well, deer too, but I mean, I have a whole herd of deer that hang out here. So, I mean, to me, deer's like, pfft. Not that I don't like them, I do. But anyways, okay, let's get back to where we were because I get sidetracked. So, we talked about a little bit last time about how to take care of your soil. That, adding fertilizer is not going to improve your soil. Okay? You can't just, dig a little hole, stick a plant in it, and water it and give it a little fertilizer in horrible dirt that's impacted and crappy, and you expect to get something out of it. No, you got to work on your dirt too. Okay, when I talk about fertilizer in this kind of way, it's for those who've already prepared your soil. Okay, so let's assume you've prepared your soil. All right, so do and don'ts of fertilizing. So you're going to want to test your soil. Don't if you don't have the money. Don't sweat it. Don't worry about getting it done this year or next year. Do it when you can. Having said that, you'll save yourself a lot of time if you know what your soil's like. Okay, so having said that, the other thing is follow the instructions. Please, for the love of God, follow the instructions. And I even go one further. I go quarter the dose. So if you have 1 teaspoon of fertilizer, of 5 mLs of liquid fertilizer, okay, and they tell you to put that per gallon, no, never believe them. Never believe them. Especially when you're first starting out, it's always better to under-fertilize than over-fertilize. Okay, so I would go a quarter. So instead of a teaspoon per gallon of water, I would go a quarter teaspoon. Okay, I know you're all going to whine, but Katie, that's not going to be enough to feed the plant. It's not a baby. It doesn't need to be fed every 4 hours. It's a plant. Okay, so yeah, every 7 days, 7 to 10 days. Don't have to worry about, every day. I would keep an eye on your plants every day, but you don't need to feed them every day. Okay, all right, so you want to make sure you apply evenly, especially if you're using granular fertilizer or powder fertilizer. You want to do it very evenly. You don't want fits and starts of a clump here and a clump there and everywhere a clump. No, you want to spread it around. Okay, the best way to do it is along what I call the rain circle. Other people call it the drip line, where when leaves are basically the canopy of whatever plant, and when there is rain or your water, the leaves drip down. Okay, drip the water, and you'll see. So you want to go a pretty good swath away from the stem. You don't want to get any on the leaves. Do your best. If it looks like it's going to be rough to keep the leaves off the bottom, cut the bottom leaves off. They ain't going to kill them. All right, so you want to make sure that you apply evenly. If you use granular or powdered, fertilizer, you want to make sure you water it afterwards. Okay, so you want to make sure that fertilizer is good and watered in, because tell you what, the plant ain't going to suck up those granules. The roots cannot do that. It has to be in a form that the roots can get. In order to do that, you got to be dissolved into water so it breaks down for the plant to take it. Okay, so the other thing is you do want to add organic options. Okay, remember what we said though about go ahead and add that, but don't be worried if you have to add some quote-unquote chemical fertilizer that you bought at, Ace Hardware or whatever, it's okay because it takes time for that organic material to break down so the plant can absorb it, right? Just like our bodies. We don't eat the macaroni and cheese and just push it against our face and expect it to just do it, right? We have to break it down into our bodies for our bodies to use it. Same with plants. All right. So you want to make sure you time it right. Remember how I said last time that if you're at the beginning of your growing season, you'll want to do the heavier nitrogen. But when you get closer to the mid-season and the reproduction season, then you're going to want to back off on that. You're going to want to go to phosphorus, and a little bit higher phosphorus and a little bit higher potassium. And I'll let you know here in a minute which one for what that'll work for you. Okay. So the other thing we can do is you can side dress, which is like, again, that organic material that you do your kitchen compost, whatever. You dig a trench with a hoe or shovel, whatever, alongside where your plants are. Okay. Don't dig into their roots, just a little bit off. And, we might demonstrate this maybe next year when I have some decent clearing space. It's a whole nother story. Anyway, so you want to put that there and then cover it. Okay, you want to dig it down, and then as it gets watered and as, ages, it'll leach down into the dirt for the plants to use. So remember, you can still fertilize with your liquid or granule fertilizer when you side dress. Okay, the goal is to get to the plant where you have to use less of the fertilizer, okay, and more organic. But again, there is nothing wrong with using fertilizers that you buy at the store, okay? I don't go into Miracle Grow, and we'll go into that in a minute. I do not recommend Miracle Grow. All right, so you also want to, like I said in the beginning, want to focus on your soil health, because all the fertilizer in the world, okay, it's not going to build up that soil for you. If it's crappy soil, if it's been, let's say they knocked an old garage down, an old gas station, and you built your house on that property a couple years later, you don't know what is in that dirt. That dirt has been compacted by, the gas trucks delivering. It's had oil spills. Yeah, so that's something you definitely want to get your soil tested for that as well. But, not amount of fertilizer is going to fix that. You got to go in and do the physical labor. And I know it sucks. Really, it does. I try to avoid it at all costs. That's why I call myself the messy gardener, because I don't make everything perfect. I just throw it in the dirt and worry about it later. At least it's in the dirt, right? All right. So the don'ts of fertilizer. Do not over-fertilizer. Don't over-fertilizer. Don't over-fertilize. As we had discussed before, it doesn't do anything for your plant. And my cat is now wanting attention. Yes, kitty, I see you. Where was I? Anyway, so yeah, you don't want to over-fertilize because it doesn't do any good for your plant. It also can go into the water table and the watershed, the rivers, causing all kinds of hate and discontent. And you don't want that, right? Right. Okay, so you don't want to over-fertilize because you don't want it left in the soil to break down, especially us here where we get a lot of rain. I mean, it's rain. Not as much as Seattle, praise God, but we do get rain. Anyway, so go back to the don'ts. We don't want to over-fertilize because we don't want to poison our water table, and we don't want to, what's the point of spending the money on the plants if we're just going to kill them with over-fertilizing, right? All right, you do not want any kind of granular or powder fertilizer on wet leaves or wet stems. Do your best. You're probably better off to fertilize when it's dry, mid-afternoon, whatever, early evening, before it's wet, the dew's dried off, stuff like that. Then once you sprinkle that in, you could work it into the soil just a little bit just by doing this as you're putting it in the dirt, or, use a little shovel to flip it. You put it in there and you water it in real good, okay? You don't want to put it when it's wet. Bad, it'll burn the leaves, Okay, and the leaves is what the plant needs for photosynthesis to make its food, for it to make the yummy food for us, or beautiful plants and whatever. Here's my cat that's driving me crazy. If I can get him to come in. You can come in? There he is. Yeah, I see him. Anyways, he's a pain. I love him. He's a pain. But anyways, another don't. Do not use weed and feed or lawn fertilizers in your garden. Lawns? Yeah, whatever. I don't like lawns. I'd rather have it covered with food, But there's a lot of people are very competitive about their lawn, and it has to be greener than the neighbors, and no dandelions. Okay, whatever floats your boat. I like dandelions. Good medicine anyway. Free food. Anyway, so yeah, you don't want to use the weed and feed, okay, and lawn fertilizer. All right. So the other thing is you don't want to do it during extreme weather. Drought, heat spell, cold snap, anything that's going to put your plant on the defensive, basically. You don't want to fertilize because it's already fighting enough as it is. And yeah, you go, but don't you need more food? Not in this case. Not in this case. You have to get them to get over that stress before they can take up those nutrients. Make sense? And if they're stressed, they just, remember, people are stressed, sometimes they don't eat. Same thing with plants. They're stressed, they won't eat. They won't take up the nutrients, right? All right. Other thing is, or you don't water, you don't fertilize diseased or sick plants unless you know that it's a nutrient problem. Okay, unless you know. Usually most problems with plants are overwatering, believe it or not. Yeah, we all worry. I trust me, I've done it to myself. I've done it, and yeah. So it happens. It happens to the best of us. All right, so another tip. You want to make it lukewarm water when you feed these plants. If you're doing the liquid, plants suck up sun-warmed or lukewarm water faster than they do cold or hot. So some people just fill up a 5-gallon bucket, let it sit in the sun while they're doing other chores. As long as it's not burning hot, you should be okay. You should be okay. But plants like lukewarm, house plants especially, because a lot of your house plants are tropical, right? So that's why they're house plants, because they can't handle it outside here. All righty. So if you want to use, and we'll go into manure, I think we might have to do that as a part 3 addendum for certain things. But I do have charts and things like that we can go over about, each nutrient that's in, manures, stuff like that. So we can go into really, really deep diving if you really wanted to, which we can do because I love that kind of stuff. All right. So yeah, whenever you use manure, you want to age it. You don't want to put down fresh. Okay, because if you do that, you'll kill the plant because it's just so strong of the nitrogen, it'll kill your plants. Okay? That just and if you're doing it on something you're going to eat, age it for the love of God. All right. All right, now I'm done being silly. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the nitrogen, the potassium, the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, the N, P, and K part of our fertilizers. We talked a little bit about what nitrogen and the H do, but I want to go over it again. And I also have a couple more things to add to that. So nitrogen is the one that's for growth. It's for stems. It's for leaves. If you want a lot of leaves, if you have a decorative plant that the decorative part is the leaves, like corabels or hostas, go for the nitrogen, baby. Go for the nitrogen. You really don't have to back off too much on that. Unless, of course, you want your hostas to flower, then I would back off a little bit on the nitrogen. Anyways, it's part of it grows the herbaceous or the planty, I call it the planty material, the herbaceous leafy material. It's important in the early life cycle because nitrogen is not found commonly even in fertile soil. Very low amounts of nitrogen in fertile soil. Any soil, but even fertile soil. You know, nitrogen is not always present or present in enough amounts. So, okay, so the other thing is, if your plant is deficient in nitrogen, it'll be slow growing. The roots will be small. They will be weak. The plant itself will be weak. It will have yellow or discolored leaves. Now, in this instance, how you diagnose a nitrogen deficiency is that it's discoloring or yellowing from the tips of the leaves in. So the inside of the leaf will still be green, but the edges of the leaves will be starting to yellow or discolor. Okay, so that's how you can tell it is a nitrogen problem. If it's starting from the discoloration from the edge of the plant, okay, here's my tree leaf. If it starts here, if I have a nitrogen problem, it's going to start in the tips of my leaf and not in the palm part of the leaf, okay? That'll still be green. That's how you can diagnose not enough nitrogen. All right, so phosphorus. Yay, phosphorus. It's for healthy root development. It is also, especially for young plants, it is also, all plants pretty much can use it, but especially root crops. Your potatoes, your carrots, your beets, you know, anything that's a root crop, turnips, stuff like that. Radishes, they can all use some phosphorus. It's pretty important to them. Let's see, you have to be careful not to overdo it, because again, phosphorus is very much like that nitrogen problem, where if you have too much in the soil, it'll end up working its way down to the water table. And we don't need more agricultural runoff than we already got, right? Okay, so let's try our best to not do that. All right, so we want to make sure that if we are adding that we are not overdoing it. Okay, so everything in moderation. Okay, I tell everybody it's better to under-fertilize than over-fertilize. If it's under-fertilized, you could always diagnose the problem and pump it up. But if it's over-fertilized, A, you can't undo it. B, it'll lock up and won't suck up any more nutrients because it's just the way it is. It just shuts down, accepting nutrients, and that's why they die. So, you know, you got to be careful about that. The other thing is oftentimes when plants are deficient in phosphorus, their leaves or their stems will have a purple tinge, a purplish tinge, and they tend to wilt. Okay, now, having said that, some plants will have a purplish tinge if it gets cool, a little too cool in the evening. You will see a little bit of purpling. So, you know, just kind of take it with your observation tool, you know, and just check it out, you know. And that's kind of one reason why we're talking about this, is so that I can help you figure it out. And then you won't need me. Then what will I do? Anyways, we got cars coming and joggers rogging, so we'll just wait a minute. So, yeah. Whew. Got a breeze off of that one. All right, so we talked about, wait, another car. We talked about phosphorus and nitrogen. Nitrogen moves very easily away from the plant, so it does tend to, yeah, you have to watch it. You might have to reapply depending on what's going on with your plant. And again, a lot of that is what's going on, what's your weather, what's this, what's that. You know, it might not always be nutrients, okay? All right, so potassium, wood ash, out of your fireplace. But for good God, don't take a whole 5-gallon bucket and dump it in one spot. Please don't do that. Okay. All right, now we got that straight. So potassium usually comes from potash or fireplace ash. It promotes fruit and flower production. So if you have a cherry tree, let's do a quick quiz here. If you have a cherry tree and you want to have a good harvest this year, and it's, doing pretty good, would you add nitrogen or would you add potassium? Potassium, right? You'd add more potassium. You would give it, if you gave it any nitrogen at all, you'd give it, a small amount, you do a 2, 10, 15 or something like that, if you really wanted to set that fruit, would be 1. And again, it depends on the plant. It depends on your soil. It depends on a lot of things. But these are generalities, okay? So when you have the potassium, it helps the plant as it slips into its reproductive phase. Making seeds, making fruit, making flowers for it to get pollinated so they can make that fruit or those seeds that they're trying to reproduce. So, it's very important. And if it's too low, plants can't fight disease as well. Okay. And if how you can tell it's too low in potassium is by if there's few flowers, few fruit, small, not well-formed fruit, not well-formed flowers, curled and crinkled leaves. Sometimes it's even as bad as it's the edge of the leaves that look really dry and crinkled. Okay, that's another sign that it's low on potassium. All right, so we have, I mentioned a little bit last time, I think, about those micronutrients, like calcium, iron, zinc, copper, boron, and manganese. Okay, and I also had mentioned that calcium and manganese, if that's deficient in your tomatoes, that has a part to play in the blossom rot of your tomatoes. Also too wet. They're too wet, and they need calcium and magnesium. Okay, unless you've had your soil tested and you have a lot of that, or have never experienced blossom rot, then you're probably pretty good. You're probably good. Your soil's probably good. Okay, so we have the nitrogen for the leaves. Okay, we have the phosphorus for the flowers and roots. And then potassium is for fruit and flowers and disease protection. Okay, so that's your down and dirty. All right, so your calcium, zinc, copper, iron, and boron, and manganese are micronutrients that are sometimes in low levels in people's gardens. And like I said, it's just, you do your research, have your soil tested, look at what's going on with your plant. There's tons of stuff on the internet. I'm going to put up because I went through, I was certified through Oregon State University to be a master gardener. So I have the link to the websites where you can get a lot of information. Yeah, some of it's for Oregon, but you know what? Plant, same. It's got stem, leaves, roots. It, reproduces one way or another. So, yeah, you just got to figure out what is in your area and what works in your area, basically. All right, so on your name brands, it doesn't really matter if you get a name brand or no name brand. Let me tell you my beef with Miracle-Gro. Miracle-Gro has too much salt and has green dye to make your plants look green. You ever did that test in high school or maybe even elementary school where you took food coloring into water and you stuck a celery in it and it sucked up, it turned the color of the food coloring? Yeah, that's what Miracle-Gro does. So, yeah, don't recommend Miracle-Gro. I mean, granted, if you have it laying around, use it up. Otherwise you just waste your money. Use it up, get rid of it, don't buy it again. Okay? I prefer looking at the ingredients or the percentage of, the chemicals of the nitrogen, the potassium, and the phosphorus in there, seeing where they get the sources, knowledge about what the company is. If I never heard of the company before, I might look them up. Okay, I want to use companies that A, are in the United States, B, have good integrity. And C, hopefully are not owned by Big Pharma. Okay? So, y'all know how I stand on that. All right. Another reason why I recommend American-made fertilizer is you save money. Okay, you don't have to pay the tariffs. Who wants to pay tariff on dirt or fertilizer? I mean, seriously, come on. Anyways, so you also support the businesses. You know, a lot of these, the ones that aren't owned by Big Pharma, a lot of them are family-owned businesses that churn out this kind of fertilizer, organic stuff, you know, potting soil, garden soil, stuff like that. So just takes a little research on your part. And also, you can kind of know and trust them. Like, I wouldn't buy fertilizer that was made in China. Would you? No. Not especially after they were caught sending a bunch of weird seeds to people and they were planting them and they had no idea what they were. They were kind of worried, going, okay, is this going to be an invasive species? Some kind of squash, I guess. That was years ago. But I still wouldn't trust from another place. The only other place I might trust is the United Kingdom. You know, maybe. All right. One more real quick tip, and then we'll sign off. I'm going to be talking about mycorrhizae. Mycorrhizae is a fungus, little mushrooms, that spread out through the soil, and they and the plant's roots connect. Don't ask me how. I haven't looked it up yet. But they connect, and thereby the mycorrhizae, or that fungus, or those mushrooms under the soil, spread out, and they share the food, the water, the nutrients that the fungus finds. So they have a cooperative relationship together, that mycorrhizae and the plants. At that point, we will go into maybe mycorrhizae at another time, because it's enough for its own subject. But in the meantime, I still got to film my stories for the day. And we have a lot of fun ones coming up. Some fun ones coming up. All right, guys. Be good. See you later. And let me know if there's something else you'd like me to cover. Or any questions on your gardening. All right. Have a good day.